Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm leecamp, your resident anti-Zionist Jew slash comedian slash journalist slash commentator. The most censored. Wow. I have another volume on somewhere, and I'm going to work on silencing that. How are you, everybody? Nothing like a screw up in the first 12 seconds. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. This video I'm going to show you right now on the screen is from Haaretz newspaper, the well-known newspaper in Israel, one of the most read newspapers in Israel. And this is video they have received of and put out of the tanks back on October 7th, firing on residential housing in one of the kibbutzes that Hamas had entered. And this video shows pretty clearly the tanks firing on houses. And this is something that the IDF has eventually, I think it took some pressure, but eventually admitted to, that tanks did fire on residential houses. And of course, I've also shown the video of one of the tank gunners admitting that they fired on civilian structures. Now, they claim they did that because Hamas was taking hostages in there. Now, as for the reasoning behind, if someone takes hostages, do you just blow up the building and kill everyone inside, including children, women, babies? I'll let you try and figure out why the hell that would be their game plan. It is called the Hannibal Directive, and Israel's had it for years now, where if someone is taking hostages, they do their best to kill the hostages and everyone around them. And now, I do not think that they were operating under the Hannibal Directive when they recently shot three hostages that were being released or had escaped. I think being released by Hamas. They came across them, apparently three of them without shirts on, waving white flags or white shirts to signal their surrender and to say that they were hostages. And the IDF shot and killed all three of them, is the news we've been receiving. But all of this goes to the same point that we keep coming back to, which is Israel is killing anyone and everyone in this whole situation, around the whole situation, everyone in Gaza, hostages included. And it just is revolting and unbelievable, and whatever adjectives you can possibly throw in there to try and describe what in the hell is going on here. But I'm not going to spend that much time on the numbers. You guys know them probably because I've been covering it a lot. It actually is over 20,000. Most of the reporting you'll see is 19,000 have been murdered in Gaza by the IDF. 70% of those are women and children. However, it is actually well over 20,000 because it's impossible to know, but roughly 8,000 Gazans are listed as missing, not on the official death list, because their bodies have not been found. Now, you've seen the footage of just how many people have been, just how many buildings have been collapsed in Gaza. So of that 8,000 missing, the vast majority of them they're missing because they're dead. They are underneath the rubble. So if it's 20,000 murdered by the IDF in this ongoing genocide, and 8,000 missing, well, probably 7,000 to 8,000 of those 8,000 were actually murdered. So in truth, we're talking, 25, 26,000 that have been murdered. This is the rate of death and destruction. The rate of killing is far beyond anything that we've seen in recent years, recent wars. The number of children killed is far beyond anything that's been seen in recent decades. It is just an unbelievable amount of carnage. And as I've covered a lot, this is not Israel's biggest weapon that we've seen so far. Their biggest weapon, which they're hoping for, is disease. They're hoping disease and starvation and dehydration will kill more Gazans than even their bombs have so far. But all of that is to get to some of these stories that have not been covered by your mainstream media much at all, or have been covered inaccurately, which is the standard for our mainstream media. Israel. So this article just came out yesterday or today saying that Israel plans a ground invasion of Lebanon. Um, I'm somewhere between believing this is accurate and believing that Israel might be putting this out as some kind of disinformation because they want Lebanon to feel that a ground invasion is coming. But anyway, the Israeli army is allegedly drawing up plans for an invasion of South Lebanon, risking a complete cross-border war amid calls for restraint by Western allies. The Times reported on December 18th. Israel's army says it wants to drive Lebanon's Hezbollah resistance force to the north of the Litani River. The British Daily writes that the Israeli army fears a potential October 7th like attack by Hezbollah, given their much greater strength compared with Hamas. Hezbollah's retaliation against Israel on settlements near the border area with Lebanon has led to the evacuation of tens of thousands of settlers, many of whom will not return after the war is over. Quote, "We are under fire daily and we continue to record injuries daily." This is from a mayor in a Lebanon city. Yesterday, a soldier in the reserve brigade was killed. We are recording injuries and fatalities daily. Now, even when your mainstream media does cover this, the aspect of it that they are certainly not covering is, for the most part, is why is Hezbollah, attacking Israel? Mainly it's pinprick attacks, but it is attacks. Why is Hezbollah attacking Israel? Well, they're attacking Israel because Israel is committing a goddamn genocide. So, whatever your feelings about Hezbollah, maybe you love them, maybe you hate them, they're responding to a genocide. And many people feel that most countries should probably respond, I don't mean militarily, but should probably respond somehow to a country perpetrating genocide. And so many countries are not. Some are just acting like it's not happening. Some are acting like it's that Israel needs to be, quote unquote, supported. Anyway, this is from the New York Times. Hezbollah's leader says fighters will keep up pressure on Israel. And this article is from back in November. As clashes continue along Israel's volatile border with Lebanon, Hassan Nasrallah said his group was now trying to hit targets deeper inside Israel with newer and more advanced weapons. Since war erupted more than a month ago this is November, more than a month ago between Israel and Hamas. And I love how they say, since war erupted between Israel and, you mean since the genocide has gone on for a month now? Yes, you can say that maybe Hamas attacked Israel. Not maybe. I mean, Hamas did attack Israel on October 7th. You're welcome to say that. However, acting like there's not a genocide and it's just a battle, they're battling Hamas. No, actually, if you look at the numbers, they're battling innocent women and children. Like, if you just go by numbers, who are they battling most? Apparently, women and children is what Israel's really going after. Since the war erupted, New York Times says, the armed Palestinian group, Since war erupted, Israel and Hezbollah have clashed repeatedly along Israel's northern border with Lebanon. But in the assessment of analysis, Israel and Hezbollah appeared to be calibrating their actions. Yeah, definitely not collaborating. Calibrating their actions to avoid setting off what Israeli officials fear could become a broader regional war. Nasrallah has previously described Hezbollah's objective as a controlled battle along the border aimed at sapping Israel's morale and resources. And why is Hezbollah trying to sap Israel's morale and resources? Could it be because of the genocide? Could that be the reason that they're trying to sap their morale? Could that be the reason that so many people around the world are furious with Israel? Could it be? If you want to support, honestly, the truth is, for those people out there that still saying, I just support Israel. If you want to support Israel, if you wanted more people to support Israel, if you want more of this world to support Israel, you should want Israel to stop committing genocide. Because more people, Israel's an apartheid state, so it's not easy to get support. But more people support them when they're not genociding some folks. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed more of the world is quiet on Israel and quiet on them being an apartheid state when they're not genociding folks? Just throwing that out there. So there is now reports that Israel and Lebanon could be involved in a far deeper, more entrenched war, which of course is the fear of many, that this will spiral into a large regional conflict with many more dead. And also, I should add to this that the U.S. State Department, which can be a little, they're going to exaggerate things. They're going to, tell you not to travel to Venezuela because it might be beautiful and you might like it. No, because there's terrorism there. They're going to tell you those things. So, you could take this with a grain of salt or sugar or salty sugar. But they have put out an alert, the U.S. State Department, that it's like level 4 alert. I don't know if that's the highest they go, but do not travel to Lebanon. That is what they're telling Americans right now, meaning they must have some news about what's going on with Israel and Lebanon, one might assume. So, yeah, that is why right now we see that Israel is supposedly planning more, ground invasion was what that article said. I find it unlikely that they would plan a ground invasion because many are seeing that Israeli ground troops are not good. To use a military term, not good. They're not good at what they do. They shoot hostages. They shoot each other. Apparently 20% of all the IDF who have been murdered in Gaza, it's from friendly fire. So it seems unlikely that Israel will want to do the thing they seem to suck at. But whatever. There are reports that this is going to keep getting worse. Yes, to Robbie and others asking about Abby Martin, who I told you yesterday would be here today. As I worried, she was not able to do it now because of a family emergency. So, but I will keep working to have her on soon. And it's been several months since I've had Abby on the show. So I would love to have her on. Hopefully there's a chance on, maybe it'll be Thursday, could get pushed till after the holidays, but I will do my best. I will do my best to bring you Abby Martin very soon. Okay, so I mentioned in the title that you have Israel going to war with Lebanon, and you also have the U.S. essentially announcing war with Yemen. Now, for those of you savvy viewers out there, you might go, hasn't the U.S. been at war with Yemen for like a decade now? Haven't they been obliterating Yemen? Yes, but that was tangential. It was a separate. We kept a little bit of a distance. We would ship the arms and shit to Saudi Arabia for them to kill loads of people in Yemen, but we wouldn't actually do it ourselves, attack Yemen. And now it seems the U.S. has announced we will be going directly to war with Yemen. Here is the right-wing Air and Space Forces magazine, which of course is just pro-U.S. empire at every turn. But here's how they describe it, which they had to really screw with the grammar to try and make this headline as propagandistic as possible. So the accurate term is U.S. going to war with Yemen. That would be probably most accurate. The slightly massaged propaganda would be U.S. going to war with Houthis, which is, one faction in Yemen. But that was still too much for them, so they've now massaged it even more. The title is U.S. and allies take on over 100 attacks by Houthis with new Operation Prosperity Guardian. And you read that and you go, how do they take on 100 attacks? Does that mean they did 100? How does one take on attacks? They're not taking on 100 attacks. They're saying that the Houthis have perpetrated 100 attacks, and the U.S. is now taking that on via declaring war with Yemen. But I'll get to the details in a second. The U.S. is establishing a multinational maritime task force, Operation Prosperity Guardian, which, isn't that nice when you call something a task force and it means you're going to war? The word war, I don't think appears in this article. It's just they have a task force and it's doing a thing. It's a multi-maritime national task force, Operation Property Destruction. It's like, dude, just say war. Just say you're going to war. But the part of the reason they don't call it war, not just standard propaganda, but is because Americans don't want to go to war with Yemen. And to say we're going to war with Yemen is scary to some Americans. Yes, most Americans support anytime the U.S. wants to bomb someone, but a lot of them do not. And so a lot of us would hear U.S. going to war with Yemen and we get angry and we get upset and confused as to why the hell, what did Yemen do to us? A lot of Americans would be furious. So that's why apparently there is no war. No, there's no war. What war? It's a multinational maritime task force called Operation Prosperity Guardian. No war. To address the attacks, address actually means to like speak, like an address. So this is to address attacks. Well, you're going to be murdering people. Wouldn't that be great if you could just murder your neighbor and say, well, I addressed the loud music that my neighbor was playing. And so that, did you murder your neighbor? No, I didn't murder him. I addressed the loud music he was playing via an operation called Quieter Music. It was Operation Quieter Music. That's how I addressed it. To address attacks from Houthis in Yemen on commercial ships and other targets as the conflict in the Middle East widens and risks upending global trade. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, former board member of Raytheon, everyone should remember, announced December 18th. The Pentagon said December 19th that the Houthis had conducted over 100 drone and ballistic missile attacks targeting 10 merchant vessels involving more than 35 different nations. Now, why would the Houthis do that? Why would Yemen do such a thing as attack these ships? That's horrific. That's horrible. Why would they do that? Anyone, any ideas? Is it just because they like hurting people? Or is it because of the genocide that Israel is perpetrating? As Reuters reported, Yemen's Houthi leader says group will target Israeli ships in the Red Sea. Yemen's Houthi leader said on Tuesday his forces would make further attacks on Israel and they could target Israeli ships in the Red Sea and the Bab al-Mandab Strait. The Houthis, who have been at war against Saudi-led coalition since 2015, have emerged as a major military force in the Arabian Peninsula with tens of thousands of fighters and a huge arsenal of ballistic missiles and armed drones. Oh, have they emerged as a major military force? I wonder if that's what happens when you try and genocide a people. When Saudi Arabia was raining down bombs and destroying the infrastructure and creating famine and disease and destruction and death across Yemen, it created a stronger military in Yemen. Why did that happen? Maybe because you have a lot of people who lost a lot of family members and a lot of neighbors and a lot of friends. And many of them think, you know what? I've got nothing left but to join this military and do whatever I can. It's so obvious that this is where things go when you destroy a people like that. But so that's the real reason that that was a bit of massaging by Reuters, but that's the real reason the Houthis are doing these attacks on ships is not just because they're bored and they want to attack American associated ships. No, it's because they want the genocide to stop on their neighbors, the Palestinians. Here is what Scott Ritter said. Scott Ritter, former Marine, former UN weapons inspector. He tweeted out, I woke up this morning to the news that my country, the United States of America, is preparing to go to war against Yemen, a superpower that spends nearly $1 trillion a year on its military, is preparing to fight an impoverished nation where 70% of its population is in dire need of humanitarian assistance. The reason? Because the Houthi of Yemen demand Israel stop committing genocide against the people of Gaza. Our choice was between pressuring Israel to agree to a ceasefire. When he says our, he means Americans. So America's choice was between pressuring Israel to agree to a ceasefire or a war with the Houthi. We chose war. And, he means the American government, because I don't think the American people have chosen this war. It speaks volumes about who Americans are as a collective. I don't think this will end well for either the U.S. or Israel. Now, I don't know how many Americans, what percentage it is that support the U.S. going to war with Yemen, but I can tell you that the last poll in terms of ceasefire in Gaza was about 65% of Americans saying they wanted a ceasefire. They want this genocide to end now. So the majority of Americans do not want to see this genocide. The majority of Americans probably couldn't find Yemen on a map. The majority of Americans don't even know that the U.S. is right now at war with Yemen, partially because we don't use the word war. We say it's a special maritime operation. It's addressing, it's a special maritime addressing the things of many words that we put here so that you forget that we're talking about how we're going to war against a country that has never done anything wrong to us and is incredibly impoverished. So this is coming from the UN. They say over 60% of the infrastructure in Gaza has been destroyed or damaged. 60%, more than 90% of the Gazan population has been displaced. 90% displaced. This is the dictionary definition of ethnic cleansing, of genocide. If this isn't ethnic cleansing, if this isn't genocide, then what would be? What could you add to this to make it a genocide? There is nothing else that could be added. Like, if you want to say this is not a genocide, as many people who quote unquote support Israel say, then you're saying that there can never be genocide, because what else could go on to make something a genocide? This is a staggering and unprecedented level of destruction and forced displacement taking place in front of our eyes. It really is just, and you see some of these photos, and it's as if there were no buildings there at all. I mean, they're bombing buildings that are already empty, because that's the thing. They're bombing buildings that are already empty often because they don't want the structures to be there for anyone to return to. It's not just to kill as many as they can. It's also that they don't want there to be a city, a town, a building for people to use or live in. And why is that? Because Israel wants to eliminate Gaza from the map. I mean, it is funny that Israel, in the propaganda of Israel, they point to anybody who criticizes it and say, they want to wipe Israel off the map. They want to wipe Israel off the map. The truth is, Israel quite literally wants to wipe Gaza off the map, quite literally wants to wipe the West Bank off the map. And as I mentioned, Netanyahu held up a map in front of the UN about 10 days before October 7th, and that map had Gaza and the West Bank wiped off the map. So they're projecting, they're pretending that others are doing it when in fact it's them. So this was kind of fascinating or hilarious. Israel is trying to crowdfund more money for the fighters that are fighting in the tunnels, which is, if you want to send your money to genocide, if you want to look at, if it's your end of year giving and you're looking to send some money to genocide, here's where you send it. It says, help the Yahalam fighters, help the Yahalam fight Hamas in their tunnels. And the article talks about how the IDF deploy the Yahalam unit into the tunnels, and now they're literally asking for donations, which will help buy gear and drones and drilling equipment. So isn't this exciting that our society's gotten to this point that we can now crowdfund a genocide? Because it for so long you were like, yeah, we got the internet, we got all these apps, we got these awesome smartphones, there's so much technology, but we still can't quite crowdfund genocide. It's just no one's made an app for it. No one's made a go genocide me. No one's it's just not there. And so it's, you've heard of the site Buy Me a Coffee is where you can support artists by buying them a coffee, meaning $5 a month or something. There should be a Buy Me a Hot Cup of Genocider. Like there should be a buy me a genocider, and you can donate $5 to help genocide some people around the world. Legit, legit. I know I'm making fun of it, but legit, they're trying to crowdfund genocide, which is it's something I didn't think I'd ever see. There's a lot I thought I'd see in this world. This was not one of them. The crowdfunding for ethnic cleansing. Holy shit. Holy shit. I think I summed that up well. Okay, folks, I'm about to get into the recent vote from Congress on Syria, why the U.S. still, quote unquote, owns part of Syria. I'm also going to do something about domestic. Oh my God, domestic coverage? What? There's actually new information. I know it's 6 years after the fact. New information about Derek Chauvin, the man who killed George Floyd, the cop who killed George Floyd, and just how much he kneeled on people's throats and nearly killed them. And this information is like coming to us a couple of days ago, 6 years after the fact. So I'm going to get into that as well. But I want to take a moment real quick. And for those of you joining late, if we're hoping Abby Martin would be here. I was hoping she'd be here as well, but she will be coming on the show soon. She had a family emergency, so I'm sorry about that. But I want to take a moment real quick. And say, you can join my community and support this show. You can actually do it for free. Now, I, of course, would love for you to be a paying subscribing member because that's what really supports the show. But I'm going to show you right here how to do it. And if you could just take, honestly, like 30 seconds, do it right now. If you're watching on Rumble, you can click the Join Lee tab. That's a red tab at the bottom. And I know you might think that is only if you're going to pay. But in fact, so here's the page you'll see. When you get there. And right there it says so for anybody listening to the podcast, it's leecamp.net. We'll take you right there. Leecamp.net, take you straight to the page that everyone's seeing now. And here's the free way to do it. If you don't want to pay the $6, the 38 cents an episode. Yes, and for anyone asking, Abby's family is fine. I just meant a sickness. I didn't mean anything tragic. So when you get to this page, click, instead of clicking become a member, which is where they'll ask you how much you want to support a month, go down a little farther and it says in red, become a supporter, not become a member. And, oh, sorry, I actually got them backwards. So if you want to become a supporter, a paying member, click become a supporter. If you are not going to do that and you want the free version, click become a member. It will then take you to a page where you just put in your email, make up a password, and that is it. It will be free to become a non-paying member. So honestly, take 30 seconds, do that. It helps support my show, even if you're not paying. And you'll be able to join the community. Now, you won't get everything. You won't get the exclusive stuff for members. You won't get the exclusive Q&As for members, extra segments, stuff like that. But you will get a lot of things over at the community. So it really does help if you can just do this right now, completely free, if you're not going to become a supporter. So click the big become a member tab and fill it out. And you will join the community that way. And of course, if you're already a member of Locals, you can just hit log in. But so you click become a member. Now, if you want to become a paying supporter, you go down a little farther and click become a supporter. All right. Thank you guys for doing that. I hope that you're willing to take 30 seconds out of your day right now and do that because honestly, it's not easy to keep this stuff going when I am so censored, when this all is so suppressed in every level. Any platform I start to build up, gets nuked or held back in one form or another. So it really is you guys, and thank you for the support. Okay, so moving on to the recent U.S. Congress vote on Syria. So how many of you knew this? We're still in Syria. The U.S. still, quote unquote, owns, which was a term they used. Thank you, Omar, for the donation. The U.S. still owns 10% of Syria, at least 10%. And the Senate has voted, and we've been there for like 10 years or whatever. We've been there a long goddamn time. And the Senate has just voted to keep U.S. troops in Syria amid Iran-backed attacks. Now, this is defensenews.com, so this is propaganda. It has nothing to do with Iran-backed attacks. That's not why the U.S. is staying. That may be the bullshit they're trying to spit, but the Senate on Thursday overwhelmingly voted down a bill, 13-84, that would have required Joe Biden to withdraw the roughly 900 troops stationed in Syria. Rand Paul was the one who put forward the bill. And of course, this means the U.S. is currently invading Syria. Every day we're there, we are an invading force in Syria. We have invaded Syria. Now, the U.S. only keeps 1,000 troops there. That doesn't sound like many, but the reason that's not many is because most of our ability to hold an area of Syria has to do with bombs. It doesn't have to do with boots on the ground. So the number, I don't care if it's one dude. I don't care if they left one dude, just goddamn Carl, just sitting there scratching his ass. It wouldn't matter because the U.S. can bomb as much as they want. And so we could hold an area of Syria with one dude, probably, because we'd just bomb anybody that came nearby. So it's not the number of troops. The point is, we are an invading force. We've been in Syria for years. We have destroyed them, mainly economically, via economic war. But this goes back to economic war. Why is the U.S. still in Syria? Very few Americans know or care about this. But why is the U.S. still in Syria? We're not there to help freedom. We're not there to help democracy. We're not there to help Syrians, the average Syrian person, do better, because we actually have made it so that 94% of Syrians are below the poverty line. 94% of Syrians are struggling. 94% of Syrians aren't sure where their food is going to come from next week. That's 94% of Syria. So we're clearly not there to help them, because from the moment we've got there, things have only gotten worse for them. So then what is it? Why are we still in Syria? The real reason, and they actually have said this out loud. I couldn't find the video on short notice, but there are high-up Pentagon officials who've said the reason we're in Syria is we're holding the oil fields. Now, you may immediately go, oh, well, we just want to steal the oil. We are stealing oil. Don't worry, we're stealing oil. And Trump said we're in Syria to steal the oil. We are. So if you were worried we weren't stealing the oil, don't worry, we are. But that's not the real reason. The amount of oil we're stealing, the U.S. is one of the top 3 oil exporters in the world with all of our fracking and everything. So, yes, we're stealing oil, but it's not that much oil compared to what the U.S. has. So the real reason we're in Syria is, and this part they've said publicly, to hold the oil fields so that Syria, the government, can't sell the oil and actually have money for reconstruction. So we are holding the oil fields to stop Syria from rebuilding after we have helped destroy them. We are holding the oil fields to make sure that 94% of Syrians in poverty remain in poverty. That is the goal. We want them dying as young as possible. We want them not to have clean water. We're hoping as many struggle and die and don't know where their food will come from tomorrow. That's what we want, and that's why we're holding the oil fields. And they haven't said the thing about them dying, but they said the first part publicly, that we are there to hold the oil, and it's actually a lot of the wheat producing area of Syria as well, so that they can't rebuild, so that they keep struggling. Now, the propaganda side of this would be, oh, well, they're doing it to harm the Assad regime, right? Any country we don't like is a regime. Any country we do like is a democracy. Is a democratic government, even if you're an apartheid state. Guess what? Israel's not the biggest democracy in the Middle East, because you cannot be in a democracy. You cannot be a democracy if you are an apartheid state. Those two are actually mutually exclusive. So you look at our Congress, and they vote 84-13 to keep destroying the Syrian people. 84-13. And just, They're so repulsive and so sociopathic, and so they just don't give a flying shit about human beings, about equality, about justice, about anything. That when you're interacting with a fellow human and you think, I would not like it if this person were to die right now. They don't have that, apparently. They don't have the thing now that allows you to care about other humans. Now, to get a little deeper into this, and I know no one ever wants to do this, but this is a systems failure. We live in a system where the people who are the most sociopathic get to the top, almost without exception. Almost without exception. Because if you are not a sociopath, you stop along the way. You want to collaborate. You want to give people credit. You put your ego behind others. You actually want to help others. You work together with others. When was the last time you saw a CEO of a corporation as the type of guy who, would let people merge in front of him in traffic? Fucking no. That's not the type of people that get to the top in our system. And on top of that, just in day-to-day actions of our system, the gravity is always towards profit over all else. It is never towards humanity. It is never towards sustainability. It is never towards having a functioning planet in 100 years. That is not how the systems work. And so all of these things, it is a systems problem. It is a market economics problem at its deepest core. It is not human nature, because there are plenty of examples going back thousands of years where there were whole tribes of thousands of people, groups of thousands of people who got along and didn't want to murder everyone and didn't want to steal from everyone. It is a systems problem, and we can never dig that deep. We're never allowed to dig that deep. It's all just spectacle. It's all just designed to distract you. But that doesn't mean there aren't beautiful people fighting out there. It doesn't mean there aren't beautiful people doing some great stuff out there. And that is why right now I'm going to bring you this video of farmers in France blowing out of a giant, cannon-like device, cow shit onto government buildings. I'm going to bring you that video right now, but I'm going to continue the rest of this at rumble.com/leecamp. Join me over there, rumble.com/leecamp. Or if you're watching on Locals, all of this will stay the same. It is free to watch on Rumble. So join me, rumble.com/leecamp. Free to watch over there. Why would you not? Come see the video. I'm also going to bring you that new information about the man who murdered George Floyd, and so much more. So please join me, rumble.com/leecamp. Let's watch some farmers shoot tons of shit